Brothers in Revolution, Freemasonry and the Sons of Liberty Extended Series. If you look back at the decade before the American Revolution, the Sons of Liberty appear not as a formal group, but as a loose collection of colonial protest movements that began in 1765 when Britain imposed the Stamp Act. These early gatherings weren't secret societies, and they didn't keep membership lists or follow rituals. They were simply ordinary citizens who believed that the colonies were being pushed too far, and they came together to organize resistance, share information, and push back against new British taxation. Yet when you study who these men were, especially in Boston, you start to see clear overlaps with the world of Freemasonry. Not because Masonry created the Sons of Liberty, but because many of the men who led the early protests were already connected through their Masonic lodges. In the 1760s, the Masonic Lodge was one of the very few places in the colonies where men could gather privately and speak freely. Inside a lodge room, social rank didn't matter. A wealthy merchant, a printer, a shipwright, and a doctor all met on equal ground, and those conversations often stretched beyond ritual into philosophy, government, and civic responsibility. As tensions with Britain increased, those same lodges, especially St. Andrew's Lodge in Boston, became natural gathering points for men who were already accustomed to debating the issues of the day in a calm and structured environment. Over time, many of those men found themselves stepping into a larger public role as resistance to British policies grew stronger. St. Andrew's Lodge is where the connection becomes the most visible. Founded in 1756, it met at the Green Dragon Tavern, a building the lodge eventually owned. The tavern later became known as a meeting place for various groups committed to resisting British authority, including individuals associated with the Sons of Liberty. It's here that you find several familiar names, men like Dr. Joseph Warren, a physician who became a central leader in Boston's revolutionary movement, and also served as Grand Master of the Masons in Massachusetts. Paul Revere, another member of St. Andrew's Lodge, was active in both the lodge and the resistance. John Hancock, who would eventually sign the Declaration of Independence with such bold confidence, was tied into the same network of Masons and Patriots. These men didn't act on behalf of Freemasonry, but their Masonic relationships strengthened the trust and cooperation they relied on in the political arena. The Boston Tea Party is a perfect example of how the overlap is often misunderstood. Several of the men involved in the Tea Party were members of St. Andrew's Lodge, and they met frequently at the Green Dragon Tavern. But there is no historical evidence that the lodge planned, sanctioned, or organized the event. It wasn't a Masonic action, it was a political one. The truth is far more straightforward. Masons participated because many of the leading patriots of Boston happened to be Masons, and they used the tavern they met in as a convenient and trusted place to coordinate their protests. As the conflict escalated and resistance turned into revolution, those same men continued to stand at the center of events. Dr. Joseph Warren gave his life at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Paul Revere carried messages, organized intelligence networks, and became a symbol of patriot leadership. John Hancock, Samuel Adams, James Otis, all men who moved in and out of the same lodges, taverns, and political circles, became some of the most influential voices in the colonies. They didn't fight as Masons, but their shared experiences in lodge life had shaped the way they approached leadership, debate, and civic duty. What history shows, without exaggeration or myth, is that the Sons of Liberty and Freemasonry overlapped because of the social realities of the time. Lodges were places where free discussion was possible, where trusted relationships formed naturally, and where men who already cared deeply about liberty and responsibility gathered regularly. When the colonies reached a breaking point, it was only natural that many of the men who stepped forward were those who had spent years sharpening their ideas and building their bonds inside the lodges of Boston. The Sons of Liberty did not rise out of Freemasonry, but Freemasonry helped shape many of the men who became its most committed members. Their connection wasn't built on secret orders or hidden symbolism. It was built on friendship, trust, and the shared belief that the colonies deserved a voice in their own future. And when those forces came together, they helped set the stage for the revolution that would forever change the course of American history.